hair is bad. Hello.
How's my hair?
Hello.
Is it looking okay?
Mine's bad. Look, there's like.
Do I need to get like a haircut?
It's like perm. You're fine. Hi guys.
Hey, welcome back.
Welcome back to our live.
How's everybody doing?
How's our audio? Let me know in the comment if the audio is a little bit funky or not. But yeah, if it is, just let us know because I think I tried to do something and I'm not sure if it works or not.
It's been a good week. A lot of success stories actually.
Yeah.
Right? Or the past 2 weeks. So
is
that's
it because
great.
it's hiring season? November? Yeah, I guess so.
The past 2 weeks. So
Is it because it's hiring?
Because I know in the past I've gotten a lot of my. Like, when do you get your job offers?
It's pretty random. But like last time I got it December.
Interesting. And then other times?
I don't remember. Like maybe like February or something. I don't know. I feel like the month doesn't really matter unless it was during internship. If it's during internship, then it's usually for like summer. Yeah.
Because I get a lot of my job offers in like December.
Also. Oh.
Yeah, because I think that people feel more generous.
Oh.
The holidays are coming
that could
up.
be true. Yeah.
Their workload has lightened significantly. Teams are starting to plan big projects. Right?
Oh,
People are
so
always
like hiring
saying,
a big hiring.
Yeah, they're saying like, okay, the end of the year before our code freeze, before everyone leaves for the holidays, let's finish up these projects.
Yeah.
Next year, we're gonna have this whole new batch of brand new projects, and then they're like, we need headcount for these things. So they're already starting to plan that out, and managers are probably already thinking, okay, we want to crush it next year, and let's bring on more people.
Yeah, and they want to expand and stuff.
That makes people sense. Are just in a better mood. They're in a brighter mood. Like in fact, one time, I got a job offer, and they told me, like, hey, it's kind of like a Christmas present.
Oh.
Yeah, they were actually saying something like that.
Interesting.
Or like, hey, that's kind of a nice Christmas tree, isn't it? So. And people are just in a good mood compared to if it's like.
Yeah, it's definitely slightly stat sick.
It might be stats, yeah.
I do feel like, imagine if we have enough data and then for the same person or like for a lot of people, if we see that they usually get the jobs in December, then yeah, maybe. And honestly, like the subjectivity of interviews, that's no joke. Like, yes, we're pretty objective in terms of you could pass the interview, technical interview, yes or not. But in the end, it's still just like very subjective, right? Like if you like the person, you're a lot more likely to pass them, even if they don't do so well. Like it's very true, right?
Yeah, exactly. Which is why, like I strongly believe that the current way people train for interviews in which they just do like 400 LeetCode questions.
Yeah, I'm talking to you, Justin.
Right, yeah. They go in there, they do 400 LeetCode questions and they think that'll do it. It's not gonna land you the job. Whereas like if you can appeal to their human side, show some charm, and then like, the holiday seasons are very nice. People are relaxed, they're cheerful. You may be able to land offers easier during this time of year.
Yeah. And honestly, sometimes it's even more the perception of you being smart than you actually being smart, right? Because like if the moment you come in and they already think you're smart, they're gonna judge everything else about you a lot better, right? But anyways, and then a lot of people don't know that, and then they always like sometimes when they talk about the course, they say, "Oh, I've already done all these questions. Why can't I still get a job?" Well, clearly it's not about doing the questions because we did a lot fewer, because I see a lot of people saying, "Oh, I did 400 questions, yet no offer." So clearly it's not about the questions anymore, right? It's something else, And then, it's the one thing that ticks me off, it's like when people say, like, "Oh yeah, like I already know everything, I already know everything, like all these questions, I already know all the answers," and I always want to say like, "All right, where's your offer?"
Yeah.
Anyways, that's just a little bit negative side of me, but yeah. Anyways, all right, want to go to the Facebook questions?
Yeah, let's get into it. By the way, announcement, you guys probably already know we released AlgoPro for you guys, gave it free, so enjoy it. And we are going to be continuing to add more to this set. I believe we launched with 50. Then we brought it to 60 questions, and we're just going to keep adding to it until you guys are satisfied, really.
Yeah. Do you guys have any feedbacks on AlgoPro if ever you've done it before?
Yeah, it's a new thing, so we're looking for any feedback. We can improve it however you want it. But here's one thing, okay? We've gotten some feedback where some people say they want AlgoPro to be sorted by topics or tags and things like that. And what I like to tell people is too many people are focused on the topic, like, oh, I need to know binary trees, or I need to know linked lists or recursion. But in my mind, it's not about the topic, but about your technique. The technique is consistent throughout every single problem. So it doesn't matter if you can solve a linked list question, but you can't solve a binary search tree problem. What matters is, well, when you failed in solving that binary search tree problem, what was your technique? And if you could give like all of that good analysis and accept feedback and walk through the problem and give like alternatives, even if you don't solve it perfectly, maybe the interviewer can give you a few hints here and there and guide you towards the answer. And that may still get you a better score than if you were to ace a linked list question, but maybe you did it recursively, but couldn't do it iteratively, or couldn't explain the time-space complexity, or you just didn't talk about the brute force solution at all. You just jumped straight to that optimal built-in one-liner solution that you learned over at LeetCode or something. That technique is just garbage.
And I do feel like I might fall into this trap too sometimes. You know the saying, when you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail? That definitely happens to me. Like a lot of the question, sometimes they sound similar. For example, like, oh, course schedule. And then you have a question where they're like, oh yeah, course schedule. But it might actually be a totally different question, but it happened to say course schedule. And then the technique that you've used in like course schedule, for example, you might try to think that you need that. And then the moment you say something that is completely wrong because you just remembered it, then the interviewer will know that you're maybe cheating because you just memorized it. And that's a total fail, right? That's why it's a lot better to just be like, give a really brute force solution at the beginning, just so that you could slowly get into the question instead of trying to go all the way to the optimal solution. Like imagine if you tell me like a simple array question that just requires a few pointers, and then I'm like, I think you need a heap, right? Like if you do that, like it's really bad if you do that when you overshoot to use something complicated. And like imagine if even worse, like I think you need skip lists.
There's so many candidates who come in and they say, this looks like dynamic programming. It's like, no, it's not. It's just a standard iteration.
Yeah. So I think that's actually even worse than struggling to get to the ultimate solution, right? Because like it really seems like you're scared to do something, understand the problem, So don't go so fast. A lot of people think you don't have a lot of time in an interview, which is kind of true, but that stress makes you skip way ahead. And then they realize like, okay, are you either memorizing these questions or do you have no idea what the fuck you're doing, right? You don't want them to think that. Remember, it's always about presentation. An interview is all about, it's kind of like dating, okay? It's kind of like dating. You can't just right away show a very bad first impression. First impression is important, and then you have to carry it through.
Yeah. One caveat I want to mention for the AlgoPro questions is we do give you like the full runnable code. In the actual solution, like if you're in an interview setting, it doesn't need to be runnable, right? So you would want to cut a few corners, make sure you get to the meat of the problem. Yeah. If there's edge cases, you can kind of like gloss over those a little bit, maybe. Like you want to write enough real code to show that it's legitimate code, but some pseudocode just to speed things along is fine.
I actually suggest one thing. Yes, you're practicing for interview, but try interviewing your friends. And then you realize what you're actually looking for. Because you have to remember, the interviewer has the solution in the head. And then what they're trying to do is just trying to gauge if you get it or not. So even if you don't write the code perfectly, but you're doing the right steps and you know what you're doing, then in your head, you're like, oh, that guy is smart already. But it almost doesn't even matter if there's like a few like coding syntax mistakes that the person does, right? So like you'll realize what you should really care about or what the interviewer care about if you yourself become the interviewer for like one day to your friend, and then practice on each other, right? Interview that person will interview you and stuff like that. And then I think that would be very useful because
So this is a good point. I have an interview question. I've asked it like 50 times, right? Like I love asking this same question, and I've seen so many approaches to it. And I know that the optimal solution has two functions, right? Maybe a helper function or something. And I know the approach is like maybe you need a hash map or something. And then if the candidate comes and writes it with three functions and uses like an array or something, then right off the top of my head, I see that does not look optimal. Like it's not my expectation. So it does help if as soon as you kind of like spend some time trying to think about like what does the core structure of the function, the optimal solution look like, and try to target that, right? Like if you don't need 3 or 4 random functions and a bunch of parameters in the arguments, try to clean that up because you're presenting this to somebody who knows that you're not doing it in the optimal way.
Yeah. I just want to say one final thing. So like when you're the interviewer, like you're practicing and you're being the interviewer, and if you're a friend, it's whenever they're explaining something, it's like, oh my God, you just don't understand what they're saying. Remember why, and then don't do that, right? Because you're gonna start to learn a lot of things, or like how the interviewer perceives you. Because when you're an interviewee, you have a lot of stuff in your brain, but the things that come out of your mouth might not reflect what's in your brain because you have a lot more context because you are in your own head. So sometimes explaining algorithms might not be as clear as you think it is because they don't have the same context as you have in your own head, right? So kind of like imagine if you have a friend and they're explaining like these random stuff that doesn't seem to be like correlated with each other, then you have to practice that. Like, oh, remember, they're not in your brain. They don't know what you're thinking. You have to clearly explain everything. Anyways, that's it. I'm done.
No, yeah. Well, so I did read actually recently some people say, it's like in interviews, you just need to learn to be quiet sometimes. Like you don't have to be talking as you're writing it, and then out comes a bunch of mumbo jumbo, right? Like it should be understandable what you're saying.
I agree, because like a lot of the time people say, oh yeah, you should keep talking while you're interviewing. Oh, you should keep talking, right? And then the thing about people is they take advice like purely as as gospel, and then to just apply it like blindly. It's because and then you always overshoot, right? The reason why people say you should talk while you do like your coding is because you don't want to just start coding without saying anything. It's just as long as you're clear and concise and you explain, that is okay. You don't need to keep talking. If you're done talking, you're done talking, right? I've spent sometimes like 1 or 2 minutes or even like 5 minutes just writing the code and I didn't say anything. Why? Because we've discussed it before. All right.
Cool.
Let me read some Justin Lin stuff.
Yeah, shout out to Justin Lin. Congrats for getting that Amazon internship. Yeah, great job. Like, I think that's great. Like, I've seen you working really hard on this and participating in the group, and yeah, I think that just shows that hard work pays off. So, congrats,
man.
Yeah, nice job. Amazon. I bought some Amazon stock the other day. I think they're good.
They're popping. They're gonna pop. Well, I mean, it's ran by an ex-hedge fund guy. Did you know that? Jeff Bezos. He used to work at DE Shaw, which is one of like the biggest hedge funds.
Where is that internship? Is it Seattle?
Amazon? I don't know. Let's see.
Yeah, where is that? Let us know.
Because, let us know, Justin.
Housing here in Silicon Valley.
Oh, yeah, it's Seattle. Yeah.
It's crazy over here. Housing, I can barely afford it.
Yeah, it's in Seattle. You said.
Nice. All right, let's go to the live Q&A.
Yeah.
First up, what kind of jobs are the better paid and offer more growth opportunities, front end or back end?
Oh, by the way, I see how you guys have like brackets like front end React, Vue.js, and then back end Node.js and Python. I just want to say that usually, like in big companies, you're not going to be working with Node.js. right? This is quite a new thing, and it really doesn't matter in terms of what language. Like I want you guys to be mostly language agnostic. Especially as a new grad backend developer. Front end, I feel like that's more specialized. But for backend, I wouldn't honestly. There isn't when you work on backend, it's mostly because you're just a generalist software engineer, mostly, right? Unless you're actually like a really good backend infrastructure engineer. But most of the time, like as a software engineer at a FAANG company, you're a generalist that just call some API, stick things together, and
okay, yeah. So, yeah. Okay, so
hear your thoughts about that. Yeah.
No, I think when I was interviewing at Netflix, they use Node.js, but like Node.js, it's a microservice. Okay, so you end up using it with a bunch of other stuff too. Like yeah, you like no backend is really written purely in Node.js because it is such a tangled mess of code to deal with. It's like callback hell. So a lot of people like to mix it with, say, Python or PHP or Ruby on Rails or some other generalizable backend framework. And then you bring in some Node.js for like microservice, real-time like chat presence services and things like that. And it can get more complicated, or people bring in like Golang and things like that. But you're right, like if front end is a specific skill. If you've got nothing, you're just a generalist backend engineer.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You come in, you're just like, I know some Java, I know some like Python, and I can just learn stuff. It's like, okay, come on in and like learn our Python backend stack and like Node.js or whatever else they're working on over there. As for which is the better paid opportunity, so the edge is backend, right? Like it totally varies. Traditionally, the edge is backend because front end is like you don't need traditionally you didn't need that much skill. It was just like JavaScript, CSS, HTML. A lot of college kids can do that. And then for the backend where you're like doing security, networking, performance optimization, it can get much deeper than that. You wire up databases. It's like the core of that work. Front end though is getting big. Like if you built React.js and brought it into like Facebook infrastructure and then open sourced it, you're gonna be like whoever did that is getting paid like $1 million a year, right? Yeah, at least for creating this global framework. People who created like Redux, they get hired to lead like the whole Redux team. Yeah.
Oh no, what about DevOps and SRE? You can answer that later, but I do feel like SRE they get paid less, right?
I believe I once checked. It's like I think it's like 10% less or so. It's still pretty good. It's like it's almost on par, I would say. But generally, it's like software engineering is it's like the highest, or I mean it's. Compared to say, I don't know, like QA engineers or like UX engineers, designers and stuff like that, or even like, I think product managers get paid about this. Even
I heard slightly less. Well, at Facebook it's slightly less. If it's like the same level.
It's the same or slightly less, but then like the problem is PMs are usually like the whole execution axis is different, right? Like in order to become like a senior DevOps engineer, you need to know how to put out crashes and fires like right away. Like, oh, the server's down. Oh, okay, let me just like write the script to shard the database and like put all the users into like these cached areas and like restore the backups. It's like that's probably going to be pretty difficult to do unless you're really into it. So overall, it's kind of like if you're really into front-end engineering and you want to learn all about Vue.js and like Angular and React and become a pro at it, and then even start building out some of your own frameworks, that will get you paid because whatever you excel at is going to be good.
Yeah.
And same for backend. But if it's all the same and you don't know, then I would lean towards like backend paying more.
So my manager used to say, like when I interned at Facebook, my manager used to say like, well, I just asked like, oh, should I do data science or software? I mean, software would get paid more, right? And then he says like, yeah, that's true. But like in the end, it's about what you're good at. Because if you're really good as a data scientist, but not that great as a software, yes, you might get paid more as a software in the beginning, but you'll get promoted faster as a data scientist.
Yeah.
And then in the end, you'll get a lot more, by data science. So that's why like front end versus back end, like honestly, it's whatever interests you or what you're good at. And I would just choose what you're good at because you can like climb way faster that way.
That's right. And the other thing is a lot of people end up doing both. A lot of like, okay, so I do like iOS engineering, which is actually a client front end skill. And then like there's Android people too. And then of course, front end people. A lot of these people, they're encouraged to get into back end anyway, because if you can build a feature start to finish without having to ask another person for help, you just ship faster, right? You can build a whole prototype, or you can come up with an idea and just build the whole demo and say, hey, look, this looks pretty good, doesn't it? And people will say, yeah, that looks great. Maybe you should just ship it. And then you can like lead feature teams, right? So for a feature team, usually if you want to lead it, you need to understand the back end and front end in order to push out a feature. So it helps to just kind of learn everything over time, although you can choose something to specialize in.
We're reading the comments.
I've got, Josh says what? I've got 19 years of experience, exited as a CTO, looking to find a remote individual contributor role. Interesting. Yeah. I think my advice here is like anytime I see like founder, co-founder, CTO, CEO on resumes, it's usually like or like architecture of something like these are pretty pompous words, I think.
Don't you have a CEO on your?
No,
you have creator. You have creator.
Yeah, I use the word creator or owner, or like I don't even like the word founder because it's just like it's just a little bit too much. And I'm not looking to be the founder. I'm not applying to be a founder.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Yeah. Like if I'm a CTO, I'm not applying to be a CTO of a company. I'm applying to be, like an individual contributor, software engineer. That's what I'm looking for. So like you target your resume. You don't have, the resume doesn't need to be accurate. Like, or it doesn't need to be, like it needs to be focused, right? So, instead of saying like, oh, I'm the CTO, I mean, you can do it, you can say it, but then when you describe it, you can just say like, focus on like, oh, I helped engineer this thing, I helped develop this thing, and that would help out for that. And then you want to also show like, it may even help to put an objective for people who are looking into career switches. Many times I get a resume and I'm just like, it's all over the place. And then I have to ask the candidate like, are you sure you're applying for the right role? What are you even looking for? Like, what do you want to do here?
Yeah. I can answer this one question. Can you guys talk about data science jobs in general as well? So, I mean, I made a whole like bunch of videos on that on my channel, but I guess I could kind of give you guys a summary. But in terms of like data science, the reason it's a little bit funky is because the main three difference in the three types of job, I would say, there's many more and there's some that are in between, but there's one that's like data science analytics. That's just a fancy way of saying like business analyst. That's what I was. And then there's like research scientists. Those people, they do like cutting edge technology, and what they do is they just research like new stuff, and they might even publish papers. Usually they don't work on just a single product. If it's at a company, they work on something that might benefit a lot, like many teams. Like for example, I forgot, there's kind of like a product that's kind of like for example, if your company uses TensorFlow, but then you build stuff on top of TensorFlow, and then you kind of use your own algorithms, and then other teams would use your framework, then you'll be kind of like a research scientist. And then there's also a machine learning engineer. Where at Facebook, at least, it would be people who, kind of like write pipelines, create models, but they don't go into the intricacies of the models. Like they don't use like these like high-end models. They just use whatever's pre-built, because at a big company, you have a lot of leverage because you have a lot of frameworks that are pre-built for you. And then all you do is you choose the features, you do some feature tuning, you pipe the data in, and then you solve like product problems like that, right? And then in terms of like salary, machine learning engineer is very similar to software engineer. The data scientist analyst position, you usually get like 60% of the equity of a software engineer, so it's less. And then research scientist, it's like probably the same or like a bit more, because usually you need to have a PhD for that. Yeah. Yeah. So honestly, like whenever you apply for a job at data science, just look at the job description to see if it's actually what you think it is. Because a lot of people who join data science analytics, because that's the most common job that they accept new grads and also non-PhD student, they really get disappointed because it's not what they thought it was. People who think of data science, they think of like, oh, I want to build models, I want to build machine learning, But then you realize that once you get in there, you just solve business problems by querying data or like trying to find business problems and then think of solutions for them, which is more of an analyst job. So make sure you know what you're getting yourself into. Don't just look at the title data science. Look at the actual description, and then talk to people who have done the job there, and then ask what it is. Yeah, and it's fun. And if you care about like machine learning stuff, you could watch the interview that I did with my brother, and I think the main takeaway is that like a lot of people talk about hype and stuff like that about these new machine learning models and like techniques, but in the end, like you're just going to use something that's more simple and like not as novel because it's more robust, and then it's not as sexy as you think. The sexy stuff are all like PhDs, in universities doing like cutting edge, or like if you go to like Google Brain, then you might work on these crazy stuff. But usually like people there, they all have PhDs and they work on something that's very, very specific to like what they've studied in universities.
Have you it's funny, like I wasn't really aware of the data science role until I went to Facebook, where there's like Facebook really uses data science to like analyze the, data, make SQL queries, and then come up with presentations to drive project features.
I feel like it's very specific to Facebook, and then because I haven't worked elsewhere, I think it's the norm. But I think Facebook kind of pioneered that position, because I'm sure Uber hasn't or whatever. But for example, I heard that at Google, you might have some quantitative analysts, you might have some data scientists. The data scientists, they would do something that's harder. Like imagine if you were working like ads auction and stuff like that, they would have to like understand, okay, what kind of metrics can we use now that can predict like user costs, stuff that's ambiguous, that's hard to solve, right?
Yeah.
Because imagine if you show a lot of ads to users and users might be like, oh, that's annoying. But how do you quantify that, right? That's hard problems. Those are for like PhDs, data scientists, real data scientists.
Yeah, when I was at Google, we had like a quant on our team. It was crazy, like PhD in statistics, who like come up with these crazy like charts and stuff. I mean, still like what she did was like we launched features, but she would work across many teams and basically, I guess also like the data scientists at Facebook, but like it was like PhD type people, crazy backgrounds in math, almost like from a hedge fund type of background. Yeah.
Anyway, so that's data science.
All right, what are we tackling? Can you shout out? Yeah, shout out to Sunil. Looks like I've been working out. Yeah, I have. I just came from the gym.
He's actually really jacked.
Oh yeah. I mean, I ran. Joma's jacked.
Nah.
He's not. But Joma's got.
Yeah.
He's got his comedic charm.
Thank you. But it's true though. Like sometimes I see him at the gym and I'm always surprised. Like, oh my god, you're actually pretty jacked. And then he's not like me, where every opportunity I have to show like my
you gotta
body,
take off your shirt.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Like he's not like that, right? And so then you'd never know. But
so let me explain. Like I mean, I believe that software engineers need to exercise.
Oh yeah.
Because of the sedentary nature. It's essentially like being a pro football player.
Yeah.
If you don't exercise, you're gonna mess yourself up. And there's so many people. If you were to enter like these FANG companies and see the postures on these software engineers, they're just like, yeah, it's serious. Like their necks are totally elongated, their backs are curved, their posture is horrible.
Yeah, it's so bad. It's actually so unhealthy. And it's scary, actually. There was this one guy, I don't know why he does that, but he always codes like this. He literally like this. I was like, and that's even worse because there's like one side that's different than another. I told him, I was like, what the fuck are you doing? He's like, yeah, man, it's just over. Like my life is over. Like I just can't code any other way. I'm like, and then when he walks, he's like this, he's literally like that. And like, I know it doesn't seem that important for you guys right now, but I swear, like once you guys have a job in software engineering, especially if you're working really hard in the beginning, so you're a new grad, just be careful about like your posture and stuff. Like whenever you work, if you catch yourself doing this, just like, okay, just fix your posture and code.
Let me ask you, like, what are you've worked with other tech leads and PMs? Are they jacked?
No.
Okay.
Oh wait. Oh, you mean PMs or tech leads?
Yeah.
Like not just like software engineers.
I mean that PM you had on your show was.
Oh yeah, he was jacked.
Yeah,
he was jacked. I mean, okay, at Facebook there were a lot of good looking, like there were a lot of like healthy looking people, like in data science team at least, data science.
Yeah. So for me in my Google team, all the PMs and other like leads were jacked. And it's simply because like if you're like this like really fat like out of shape guy, it's just harder to take direction from somebody like that. Like it's harder to view that person as a leader. So that, I mean, career-wise, like, yeah, work out, it's good for your health, good for your career. People, you really do show a little bit more dominance that way.
Yeah, I mean, it's still important for health-wise. Like, like for me, it's more about the health thing because, you only have so many years of active youth to live. And I mean, he's almost done, right? I still have,
I'm a boomer.
Yeah, okay, boomer. I still have a couple of years left in me, and I want them to be, as active as possible. So I don't want to ruin my youth just because, I'm a software engineer. So yeah, some standing desks. Anyways, let's just go to the next question.
All right. What is the recommended duration to work at FANG? So okay. What do you think? How long should you work in FANG?
I don't think you should work for only 1 or 3 months. Like try at least like half a year, right? Because or else it seems like you got fired if it's 1 to 3 months.
You don't learn anything. You absolutely don't. Like
ramp up time.
Ramp up time is at least like a year, I would say. At least 6 months.
Yeah. So I would say at least 6 months, and then try to create the narrative that makes you look cool. Especially if ever people say, oh, why'd you only stay there for 6 months? Or like, oh, why do you want to join this company instead? Because FANG is known to be like, oh yeah, when you reach FANG, so you could reach anything, right? So just have a good narrative.
Yeah, I would say it's really about a career trajectory. So if you're working in, so if you're working in FANG and then like you're not performing well, then maybe jump ship over to like another company and get that career trajectory moving back up. Yeah. And as you jump ship, you can also get like a little bump if you're interviewing correctly. If you're doing great, then you should probably just stay on there and let the accolades come in, right? And just have a good time, put in your time, and as soon as like at some point, maybe I would say like I've seen some people who stay in FANG for like 8 years. That's a little dangerous if you're at one company for like, I would say even 5 years.
Yeah.
Your skills just start to atrophy. Like in anything else, you only know how to work on like some proprietary tech stack that's not usable anywhere else.
It's a little bit of a golden handcuff though. It's a vicious circle too, because you work there for so long, you're very like productive at that specific company and not anywhere else, then you just stay because it's not like you can do anything. But some people are fine with that. I mean, I'm not going to judge other people's choices. But Especially, do you think at Google there were a lot of people who stay for very long? I heard like a lot of people don't stay as long at Facebook, but at Google they stay longer usually.
Yeah, I think people at Google did tend to stay longer. Like everybody was interested in building like a longer term career. I think Facebook was like they hire a lot of juniors from some reason, and then the junior engineers they get themselves fired because they have to promo within 2 years, and that gives a lot of stress, right? So that's the issue there. Yeah. What can you do to maximize your chances of getting into fame without a degree? So, yeah.
My friend did it. Well, I mean, I've talked about this a lot, but what he did was, he went to boot camp. It was Hack Reactor. And then after he got Hack Reactor, he applied to a rotational software engineering program at Facebook. And then he got it and then easily transferred into a normal software engineering position as an L4, right? So that's actually pretty good.
But how did he even get in on the rotation? Like, isn't that hard?
Oh, well, I mean, he interviewed and stuff, right? Like,
did he have projects or anything?
He probably had those Hack Reactor projects.
Okay.
Right? Yeah, and but okay, so he wasn't like a technical guy before then, but he did like run a startup that ultimately failed. Like he had an accounting degree. He was in Singapore, and then he did like a startup. So he was a very like it shows that he's a very good worker. Like he gets things done and he's able to do things, right?
Yeah.
Like I don't know how to call that skill, but just resourcefulness, right? Which is actually a skill that you need in every single job, including software engineering, right? The technical part, that's just a learning thing. You learned it, you get it. But if inherently you as a person, you're a good worker, you're resourceful, you know how to learn, then you can do everything. And people can know that, then notice it. But you have to remember that guy applied to like 200 jobs maybe. He only got like 2 interviews, and then he happened to get, Facebook as one of them.
Yeah, so
it's really rare.
I want to like just clarify for people. Some people think that, I graduated from UC Berkeley, and then I got a master's degree, so it must be easy for me to get into fame. And I don't think so. Like there are a lot of people, you probably know them too, right? Like they graduate with a CS degree, and they still like they can't even land an internship at Microsoft even, right? Like. Because if you just go through the courses, what do you learn? Like, do they teach you Python, by the way?
Like you mean like an actual course?
Yeah, at like Waterloo.
Like, no, of course not. No, we actually don't teach any language. It's like you would teach.
Which language did you learn in Waterloo?
Like mostly C++ and C. They would teach you that, and then everything else. If you do use Python in a course, they just assume you know it.
Yeah,
you don't teach a language.
Did you learn
that's not computer
Java?
Science. No, I actually never used Java, which is interesting.
Oh, yeah. So my course is like one small course in like Java, and I think that was it.
Was it literally a course to teach you Java, or was it to teach you programming fundamentals or something?
Data structures. Like you learn data structures, and I think I skipped that course actually. Because I had a computer science AP, I skipped it. So it's like assembly language, C++, so like some C, Lisp. But like all the useful languages, like they don't teach JavaScript or Python or PHP or even, they don't even teach like good MySQL. They teach you how to build MySQL.
Oh yeah.
You can build a database
because here's the thing.
But you don't know the query language well.
Yeah, because here's the thing about computer science degree, it's computer science. It's not a degree to make you an engineer. Technically, that's not what education is supposed to be. Education is supposed to be something that you learn, and you learn fundamentals that understand the science of computers, right? Yeah, that's why we don't care about SQL languages, or we don't care about teaching you how to like write good code or anything. In the end, it's like understanding how everything works. Rather, that's why you have like OS and all these like compilers and all that. It's just to teach you to understand these things.
Yeah. So like what I'm trying to say is don't like let that hold you back, or think that like if you have cool pet projects, right? And you have like, you don't need a degree to do that. You teach yourself just like everybody else has to do that, right? pick up some like Python, set up a landing page using like Squarespace.com. Set up a landing page and like build some like backend scripts and like put in PayPal or whatever and like launch it. And it's successful. You're bringing in users, giving value. Like that could get you going. And that could be a great pet project where you can talk about it and you're like, yeah, it's even bringing in a little bit of revenue. And people are going to be like, oh, wow, that's pretty cool. You got a little something done there.
Yeah. I think my number one pet project that kind of allowed me to open a lot of doors was like a trading bot that I made. It was there was a website called InTrade, and you could bet on whether Dow Jones is going to hit X amount of money or more and stuff like that. So in the end, that's just like options, right? So it's like a binary option. So then what I did was I did market making for that website.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and then that way like I could generate like money and stuff like that. But because of that project, like yes, it actually generates some revenue, so it was impressive, and it was very like domain specific.
Like
and
a buck or two.
$1. Yeah, something like that. Maybe a few cents. But yeah, and then because of that, it was it also played it nice to my narrative, which is why I got Citadel as a job.
Yeah,
right?
and
So-
you just talked about this project
Exactly.
throughout the whole.
And then
interview.
and then I was talking with them because they know you knew the language. They're like, oh yeah, binary options. Yeah, I totally understand what that is. Black-Scholes model, blah blah blah. And then yeah, you just gotta win their hearts, man. It's like dating.
Yeah, that's right. So like the key is like when I interview somebody, I don't even look at the school. Like I might see it, but sometimes it's at the bottom of the resume, and it's just like, okay, I'll keep it in the back of my mind. Like maybe you came from some school, but a lot of the candidates come from schools I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's not like everybody there's like Stanford, Harvard, like actually pretty rare actually. Most people are from kind of middle grade schools. So then like what matters is you go in, you give a good talk on your pet project, you ace those whiteboarding questions, you show the good behavior skills, right? Like you got the teamwork and you accept the feedback and you analyze it and you give the good time space analysis. And it's like, okay, that looks great. You did it fast. And then it's like, I don't care where this candidate came from if they're nailing these questions and like they got all the good projects to talk about. So, yeah. Let's see. How easy is it to switch? Tiger Uppercut asks, how easy to switch from production engineering or SRE into software engineering? And is it typical to maintain leveling?
Oh, I actually had a guy who was it production engineer? I don't remember what it was. It was something like product facing engineer, but I forgot what it was. But it was definitely like less money. And then he tried to like move to like the normal software engineering job, and it did take like a bit of like arguing for him. Like you have to re-interview too sometimes.
Really?
Yeah, but
Because we heard like one success story.
SRE,
Yeah, like
the software engineer.
someone
Yeah,
got SRE at Google and then was considering. I think she mentioned she could get into software engineering
Oh yeah.
without interviewing.
Okay.
That's what she mentioned.
I don't remember. No, no. She had two offers, right? One was like Facebook, and one was like Google or something like that. And then Google it was SRE, but at Facebook it was software engineering. And then she asked which job should she take.
Yeah, but she said that if you're at Google SRE, you can switch into Google software engineering
Without interview?
Yeah, without interviewing. That's what
Oh
she
shit. Okay, maybe.
mentioned. But okay, so here's how I understand it. Like,
That's possible. Yeah.
team switches, like you need to talk with the team, right, to find out the match.
Mhm.
But it's not like they're going to grill you on like LeetCode questions all over again because you're already qualified enough to get in.
Let's see.
So you just need to show that match.
Well, I guess one thing I can tell you is if you're a data scientist at Facebook and you want to switch to software at Facebook, you have to re-interview. You have to do 2 ninja questions. Yeah.
Oh, so all the lead coding
Yeah,
questions.
Yeah. You have to
Okay,
do
so that could be because data science is not like
Sorry.
traditional engineering,
Mhm.
perhaps, right? Like,
yeah.
so like production engineer or SRE is like you're still writing code. So you may already be qualified from a coding standpoint.
Yeah, it's like more close to software engineering.
Yeah, and I think the other thing is also like, of course, your level. Like if you are like, okay, so this girl I think was like college grad, right? So if you're new and you want to like try SRE for like a year, and then after that pack it up and go to software engineering, I think they'd probably let you, and they'll just be like, great, this person that has some of the background in like say software site reliability engineer or production engineer, and then they want to go do they want to try like software engineering, they could probably find a team that's willing to take them on, and at like a junior level, it's no big deal. And that's probably be pretty valuable skills too, because often software engineers are working with the SREs to ship features. And it also like it's just good background experience too. And I think SREs are pretty. I think they're so cool.
I think they're actually usually more talent. Like they care more about software engineering than software engineers because they're like well organized. Because imagine if you own your own company or whatever.
Yeah.
Then you're gonna be doing SRE stuff. You know what I mean? Because you have to maintain your shit. Like you learn about actually like how to manage servers and stuff.
Yeah,
a lot
you
of software
set up
engineers
alert
don't know how
systems,
to do that.
bring them back online, get your databases maintained.
For like new grad FANG engineers, they have no clue how to do any of that. I personally think so. Yeah. So I think it actually is pretty skillful.
Yeah, it's a great skill to have. Leveling, I think it probably would be maintained if it's into lower rungs like L3, L4. That's just my guess, right? I mean, it's going to be case by case basis, of course, but yeah. How often do you use algorithms and data structures on a daily basis? Matt Socha asks.
I mean, for me, I'd say 0. Like, yeah, I don't think I've used anything. I mean, I've looped over key maps. I've used
you use
maps.
arrays.
I've used vectors.
Have you ever used a linked list?
No. I mean, maybe something was implemented using a linked list. Like I could say that the hash map, technically there's linked lists inside each slots, right? So in some ways I've used it.
I've used it in like, okay, in Objective-C you have views and subviews. And you need to traverse every view and subview like a tree and apply some so I implemented dark theme, by the way, for the YouTube iOS app.
What'd you do?
The dark mode for YouTube iOS. So what happens is when you toggle the mode, it starts from the root window and traverses through all the other subviews and calls a method like change theme to trigger the view to change from black to white. That's like my best use of like algorithms. It's an iterative tree traversal.
Nice. It's good shit.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go. Some high tech shit. Man.
Yeah, and that was such a fun thing to do. I didn't let anybody else do it except myself. Most other times there's no algorithms to be applied anywhere else. So if you spot it, you gotta claim that and then put it on your performance review. Like, hey, I applied iterative tree traversal algorithm. This was very technical.
How is performance measured inside FANG? Oh, that's a good question, actually. Do you think do you think it's easy to climb within FANG or work outside of FANG and jump in at a higher level? Okay, I want to answer this question for sure. It's definitely easier to climb within FANG than to work outside and then come back at a higher level. Because you would have to have a lot of years of experience outside because, okay, FANG companies are, they think highly of themselves. So they think your level at your other company is not representative at the level at our company. For example, I heard that a guy, okay, this is not even that bad of a company. The guy worked at LinkedIn for 4 years, became senior. Whoa, it's not senior, it's L4. Okay, it's L4. Became L4, went to Google, and was downgraded to L3. Okay, 4 years.
So yeah, that's like entry level.
Yeah. It's crazy, man. So it's probably would have been way easier if you just gone to Google, and then after max like average 2 years, you're probably gonna get promoted. So that's 2 years to L4. But I mean, in some cases, you might be an L4 but still get paid less than an L3. It's very possible. Or you thinking?
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's definitely possible because I know an example of an L4 at Google that gets paid less than the L3 I know at Google.
Yeah, I think I would say like sometimes candidates come in and we don't know what level they're coming in at. So the interviewer is told to evaluate whether they're going to be L3 or L4. And in my opinion, it's like if you're interviewing, you don't want to get interviewed for this more senior role. Like it's more money, but your likelihood of getting rejected is higher too. Like if you can get in just like at a low level, that's fine. You know, it's still good. So like this is one reason why you don't necessarily want to overplay your own credentials. Like if you want to go in as an entry level engineer, and then you're putting like founder and like chief architect on your resume because you're the chief architect of your own startup, your one-man startup, you may just get yourself slotted into L4, and then it's going to be hard. How's performance measured inside Fang?
It's probably different in each company, but it's usually a combination of impact, right? Which means like how much you actually, like what your work has it impacted the team in terms of like revenue or like CPU costs, blah, blah, blah. There's impact. And then there's like an engineering pillar where it's just like good engineering. And that's usually measured by like, you know, is your engineering good? Is your code good? And stuff like that. And then what else is there? I actually don't know. Like later on in the future, there's like company like how do you say contribution, like which is like interviewing and stuff like that. Like some people, like at one point you need to interview to hit a certain quota of how many people you interview, and then actually I don't remember, but basically those are like main ones.
Yeah, impact. I mean, I think like I would say it's actually pretty it's pretty simple. Actually, it's pretty funny. Like just push out code. Like just keep pushing out tons of code until you get to level 4. That's all you gotta do.
For 3 to 4 it should be easy.
Yeah, from level 3 through 4, you just push out as much code as you can. To get to senior, I mean, by then you've already got it made. But like if you want to get higher, then you just start taking a lot of initiative. You understand the code so well, better than anybody, like better than a lot of people, that you can go and just say, you know what, this whole piece should probably be refactored. And then like people come in and say, hey, we need a new project to implement dark mode, right? Or we need iPad support. And then just say, oh yeah, Patrick can do it, right? He's the person to do it. He knows how. Or you can just go and propose it and just be like, oh, you know what? I think we should migrate our database system to SQLite because it's faster. And then just push that in, and you do enough of those, and you get to senior. So that is how you can do that.
Oh, does Fang ask about core computer science questions like networking and OS? I did not get asked. Oh, depends what role, because I heard at some companies, like for example, LinkedIn, for the phone interviews and sometimes for some of their system design interviews, you have to have a good grasp of like at least some OS concepts, right? Especially if your position is like data infrastructure or just an infrastructure engineer, then you should know these things, processes versus threads and stuff like that. And then I know that at Citadel, they actually ask very specific C++ questions and also like, systems questions. Like C++ question, they would ask stuff like L value, R value, you know, or like they give you a code and they say like, okay, where is this code gonna fuck up? Like when does it actually break? Or like which functions get called first when the constructor starts or like the destructor starts. what gets deleted first before that, which object gets deleted. So you got to know your C++ pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, so I think like it depends on what position you're applying for, right? Because it's the engineers who are working in those positions who will quiz you, and they're going to try to come up with some question that they believe is relevant to their jobs. So like, if I'm working in iOS, I don't care about network fundamentals because that's usually at the lower level. So like, I might care about scroll performance, right? So it's just, and similarly, like if you're applying for a front-end JavaScript role, then it's not likely you're going to be quizzed about processes versus threads because that's not something you're dealing with. So yeah, like I think this is one problem for me. I used to apply to C++ roles, right? It's funny because I always thought, oh, C++, that's a software engineer. That's what I gotta go for it. I mean, that's the highest paid thing. Oh, I don't want to be like a JavaScript front-end engineer. That's not me. But then I got all the hard questions because C++ gets so deep. Whereas if you were to go for like JavaScript engineer, like front-end, the set of questions you get is just going to be simpler. So yeah, I mean, if you're getting like a bunch of questions that you feel you don't know the answer to, maybe you're applying to the wrong role right there.
Yeah.
Why don't we try answering, like, there's a few of these questions. What are your thoughts on, Christopher Fan asks, what are your thoughts on starting a company, hiring developers, finding investors versus Fang?
Well, I think that's a personal preference, right? If you want to start a company, get investors and stuff like that, then if that's what you like, then yeah, you should go ahead and do it. But you have to know that you're not going to pay yourself a lot in the beginning because you care about the company's growth, not your personal growth first, in my opinion. Like not for lifestyle businesses, by the way, for real startups where you have stakeholders like investors and stuff, you're going to, according to my friend Gary Tan, he's a VC. He used to partner at Y Combinator. My buddy VC Gary Tan, Gary Tan. He's one of my friends. Yeah, he told me that like a lot of these startup founders, it's really, really hard and it takes a lot of time. Like he says, even sometimes he wants to do it and he wants to go back and be like a startup like founder, but he just can't because he has kids now, right? There's no way you can do that. So you could do it while you're young, while you have like a lot of energy, right? But if that's not you and you don't have a lot of energy and you just care about, and also it's not necessarily true that you'll get a lot of money if you do a startup because your startup can fail, right? And then usually when you do a startup, you get even if investors, you have a seed rounding of $10 million, you're not going to spend that 10 million on yourself. They won't allow you to do that. You could pay yourself a salary, maybe like 100K, like a reasonable salary. But if you're not succeeding, it's not like you can withdraw like $1 million bonus or $2 million bonus because I think there's a lot at stake there. And then if you just want like a decent, good job that gets paid pretty well with a lot of benefits, then yeah, go to the FANG company, right? And trust me, it's not that like if you've never started a company before, or you've never done a lot of initiative to do certain projects, then it might not be for you. But I don't know. I don't really know who you are, so I have no idea. But just know that it's pretty hard. Like a lot of people fail during startups. So yeah, what about you?
Yeah, I think it is. So I think like hiring people it puts on so much pressure, I think. But if you do something where it's just you and if it fails, you just lose some time.
Yeah, that's a lifestyle business.
I think that's okay. And like, that's what I've been doing, right? Like I just put out projects. If it fails.
And you had no investors on any of your projects.
Yeah, zero. Yes. I don't take investment.
So that's not a startup. I wouldn't call that like this. Right?
Yeah.
But I'm more into that because I'm more into like the Tim Ferriss lifestyle kind of a thing. But so it depends on you. Yeah, just take it easy, man. Enjoy life. Enjoy life.
All right. Maybe let's try. We can do maybe one or two more.
There's one here. What does Facebook infrastructure look like? What tools, database are good to know for Facebook system design interviews?
Oh, I mean,
yeah. Do you know? I mean, you interviewed there, so.
What do you think?
Me?
Yeah.
Well, I think it doesn't matter if you actually know the specific stack within the company, because like the interview questions are different anyways, right? Like it really doesn't matter if you don't know PHP or Hack or even GraphSQL,
Sure.
GraphQL.
Well,
So-
but from your perspective, what was the Facebook infra?
Oh, like an actual intro?
Yeah.
Well, okay, well, it's, like, yeah, PHP Hack, and then for like their data infrastructure stuff, they would use like, fuck, what did they use? I don't remember the name.
Like was it what Presto DB?
Yeah, what's the thing under it? Hive? Oh yeah, Hive, sorry. Yeah, the Hive infrastructure. And then I actually don't know what they use like for that, for their web application stuff, because I never worked on there. I just know their data infra, which they use mostly like Hive, Presto.
Yeah. They use.
Do they use cloud providers? Of course not. We don't use cloud providers. Like when a company is big like that, they have their own. Like,
it's all custom.
servers.
Yeah, it's all custom.
Or else they'll spend so much money.
They use like. It's like proprietary caching systems, proprietary databases. It's very similar to say like Memcache, right? Or
But
like
just their own.
MySQL, pretty much. Hack, right, is just their version of PHP. It's just like their stuff is just like Google as well. It's all proprietary, highly scalable, distributed things that run on millions of servers. But in the end, like it's very similar to the off-the-shelf stuff that you may see, like Memcache, like just key value stores or standard database queries that they've just internally tuned to be better. MariaDB, yeah, sure. It's like that stuff. I mean, SQL language is great to learn for any large tech company. And then they're pretty big on component kit, Litho, React.js. So it's the whole React. So this is just Facebook, right? They're into the whole, and this is actually great to look into for any interview, I think. Like just the whole philosophy of one-way data flow, immutability. I think Google has been pretty interested in that sort of trend as well, where like, how do you keep freshness? Well, you have like influx data flow, right? You have like a dispatcher and actions, and you issue actions to various areas, and you get state callback. Like it updates the state, and then like the views show that. So it kind of does away with the traditional object-oriented approach, which was actually viewed like a lot of people view object-oriented programming as spaghetti code, which it kind of is. And as a bonus tip, like in school, they teach you all about inheritance. And in reality, everybody hates it in industry. People use composition instead, if they can, because inheritance just gets so tangled up. Simplicity is highly valued. So instead of like complicating up your code with a bunch of like back and forth polymorphism, just having something simple is what people value there. And generally, I do recommend like you don't need to know these specific technologies, but if you go into an interview and you're already like saying, "Oh yeah, GraphQL, right? That's right," and then you gotta start asking relevant questions. I'm just like, okay, this kid's done. Done their homework. It seems like this person may fit in. They've already onboarded onto like some of these technologies. They're familiar with it.
Yeah, whenever I interviewed at so I interned at LinkedIn, and then I learned a lot of like their stack, like Samsung, Kafka. That's just how their messaging distribution framework is. And then when I went to the interview, whenever we talk about certain things, I was like, oh yeah, things like Kafka and Samsung. They're I know this shit. I was like, yeah,
Kafka,
yeah, name drops and stuff. But obviously, I had to read it before the interview. But I think that's that might have been like a good brownie point too. So yeah. Anyways, so we are out of time. Thank you so much for joining our live today.
Yeah, thanks for joining. Yeah. And we will see you next time.
Just want to say like one last message. I think it's really nice that a lot of you guys have been like sharing your success stories and stuff like that, and also that you guys have been helping each other out, and even apparently you guys have even talked to each other and helped each other do like interviews and stuff like that, which is really, really nice. And yeah, like, yeah, it just makes me really happy, to be honest. And like, I can't believe like we've made this community, and I'm just really happy of what we've built. And it's thanks to you guys that we can have like this community. And
Yeah,
it's thriving.
it's such a it's so fun seeing like seeing people landing jobs like that's so life changing, and it's fun to see people doing that and helping each other out. And if you are lucky enough to get it, like share your story, like let other people know what the process was, and kind of give a little back, and that would just be great, right? It's just yeah, it's fun.
Yeah. So keep supporting each other. Thank you so much. Have a good night.
All right, stay tuned.
See ya.